So this is part two from my first video of the lies of womanism, where I'm going to start to show some of the evidence of the historical narrative contrary to the popular narrative that dominates today. I'm going to start with a clip here from a recent show of a woman giving her perspective on what has happened throughout history to women. It's going to be very brief, and believe me, this is not isolated. This is a very common opinion. It is pretty well without exception the common opinion of not only young women but young men, of almost everybody today, of how in the past women were always oppressed, men were bad, women were good, etc. Thought it'd be a good jumping off point for the rest of the video and for the videos to come, just to give an example as to where the narrative is today. So let's take a look at the clip.
The reason that they reported initiating the divorce is because they don't have to tolerate bad behavior. Back in the days...
Bad behavior.
Back in the days, women went through a lot of abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, because of the fact that they didn't have financial security. They married just to get that financial security. And now their college... Bro, they going to earn a lot of money when they graduate. So now it's like, I don't need you to really rely on... I don't need to rely on you for financial support. I can actually make decisions because of the way I feel now. Now you're not making me happy. You're not trying to make me happy. So I'm just...
So there you go. You can find thousands of clips like this, like I already said, of women speaking as such. I'll probably drop more from time to time as I come across them in future videos. But on to the next. Here I've got a quote from Queen Victoria, as you can see, from 1870. I'll read it for those that aren't watching. I'm most anxious to enlist everyone who can speak or write to join in checking this mad, wicked folly of women's rights with all its attendant horrors, on which our poor feeble sex is forgetting a sense of womanly feelings of propriety. Feminists ought to get a good whipping. Were women to unisex themselves by claiming equality with man, they would become the most hateful, heathen, and disgusting of beings, and would surely perish without male protection. Underneath it, there's another quote from Queen Victoria that says, I love peace and quiet. I hate politics and turmoil. We women are not made for governing, and if we are good women, we must dislike these masculine occupations. When I came across this quote, maybe about 10 years ago, I can't remember exactly when, it really hit me hard, being that I was under the impression, like most people, that this was a mass movement of feminism, that everybody was on board. And to read that a queen of state was speaking so harshly against this. And I'm sure, yes, there was a parliamentary democracy at that time, but even still, she was a head of state. To say something that you would think, as the way we were told, would be so unpopular about feminists and feminism, and then to speak in such a prophetic manner of what I see today, of if women were to unisex themselves, they would become the most hateful, heathen, and disgusting of beings and would surely perish without male protection. Take a look around today. I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I'm going to state it, and I know I'm not alone in this, that there is a very large percentage of women that are just frankly not very agreeable to be around today. They're very aggressive, masculine, competitive, disagreeable. And come on, before I get attacked as some kind of woman hater or misogynist, if you're going to say that about me, why don't you say that for the inventors of the Karen meme? Because another adjective to describe them would be completely bossy. So I'm not alone in this. And Queen Victoria was talking about it in 1870. What are we at now? 150 years ago? I think that's very impacting, to say the least. Now let's get on to the next one. I don't have an exact date on when this came from. Had to have been late 1800s, early 1900s, obviously sometime during the suffragette movement, but it reads, voters of Massachusetts. 1 million women of voting age in Massachusetts do not want to fight men in politics. Lest this 1/10 of the number demanding the ballot. Stand with the million. Women's suffrage is a woman's question. The suffragettes demand that men shall force the burden of politics upon all women without the consent of 90%. Is that democratic? Is that just? Women's suffrage increases taxes, injures women, increases divorce. It is a costly and dangerous experiment. Women's suffrage is part of the feminist movement and is wanted by every socialist, every IWW, I think it's some type of workers' union, and every Mormon. Thought that was kind of funny, some anti-Mormonism in there. Do not join hands with these enemies of the home and of Christian civilization. The men of New Jersey voted to protect their women from politics, to maintain the family and the unit of the state. We appeal to you to follow their example. Vote no on women's suffrage next Tuesday. In justice to your state and 1 million women. I don't know the population of Massachusetts that day, but to say that there was a million women, the claim that they're making here, standing against that is very significant. And of course, I could see it could very easily be explained away by those detractors nowadays of saying this is an exaggeration or it wasn't really reflective, but we can claim the same for their side. It's just the case is just going to have to be made with a ponderance of evidence and then use your common sense. But once again, like in so much of this, the amount of prescience that came through these, I'm talking about how this was a feminist movement, and obviously the feminist movement, speaking for 1 million women, did not seem to be popular. It was a ploy of socialists. It was anti-Christian. Just very well-spoken, very wise. And I thought just another piece that was very revealing to the state of mind that was truly in many of the people back at that time. This was a poster that I found a copy of online that was produced by the Southern Women's League for the rejection of the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. That obviously was the federal initiative to give women the right to vote. For those that aren't watching, this poster is titled America When Feminized, and it has a cartoon or a drawing up at the top of it of a hen that's walking out the door of the coop that has a sash on that says Votes for Women, and the hen is saying, "Sit on them yourself, old man, my country calls me." And to the back of her and beside her is a rooster standing up on a nest of eggs, and he's responding to her saying, "Why, Ma, these eggs will get all cold." And underneath this drawing or cartoon says, "Suffragist feminist ideal family life." This is what they were describing. Now, remember, this is made by the Southern Women's League for rejection of the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. These are women that are producing this. Then it goes on to say, the more a politician allows himself to be henpecked, the more henpecking we will have in politics. A vote for federal suffrage is a vote for organized female nagging forever. American pep, which was the result of a masculine-dominated country, will soon be a thing of the past. With the collapse of the male ascendancy in this country, we can look forward to a nation of degeneration. The suppression of sex will ultimately have its harvest in decadence, a phenomenon already beginning. The effect of the social revolution on American character will be to make sissies of American men, a process already underway. Dr. William J. Hickson, Chicago University. So that quote was attributed to him. Women's suffrage denatures both men and women, it goes on to say. It masculizes women and feminizes men. The history of ancient civilization has proven that a weakening of manpower of nations has been but a pre-runner of decadence of civilization. Will you stand for this? Prove that you will not by voting to reject the federal women's suffrage amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Signed by Southern Women's League for rejection of the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. We serve that our states may live and living preserve the Union. So once again, the impact of this, considering that it had to be written 120, 150 years ago, sometime in the pre-modern era or in the Industrial Revolution during the suffragette struggle, so to speak, talking about men becoming sissies, about how a non-masculine dominated country would basically result in the collapse of the nation, is what they were saying, more or less. I mean, even as though they would go as far to bluntly and boldly say that women getting involved in politics would result in women henpecking the politicians, is astonishing. That women producing this would be that frank about the nature of women and what it would do. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for today. Hope you learned something, and hope you found it as educational that I had when I came across these things, and we'll see you in the next one.